We started understanding and talking about how as this complexity grows, no one can have an accurate model. Or at least if you have an accurate model, it won't be accurate for very long because things keep changing in this accelerating world that you're fueling as well as responding to. So in that context, talking with some of the people here, we said we really need to pull together a consortium of partners to look at the kinds of complexities and how you deal with them. Snafu is normal. We're not interested in the snafus. We're interested in you because you're snafu catchers. And so we started the Snafu Catcher Consortium with some partners. And we announced it a year ago here. So we're back to tell you what we've done in the last year. We've put together an approach based on looking at you and going out in a project we called Coping with Complexity.
So we start out with this view of what we think of as the world and the system, which is that we've got this code and we've got this stack and we do this stuff to it, and that connects up to the using world out there. But in fact, if we call this the system, we miss a whole bunch of stuff. There's connections of this thing. It's not drawn in a bubble. It doesn't mean there's a cloud. It just means that that's the system. There's connections of this thing to a whole bunch of stuff that you use to make that work. You've got code generating tools and testing tools and deploy tools, a whole bunch of stuff that's existing out there that's really part of that. And you could say that this is the system, because many of you spend much of your time focused on those things that are not inside that little bubble there. We can take another step forward, and if we do, we'll just sort of divide all of this stuff by a line that we call the line of representation, and now we add in you, the people who are getting stuff ready to be part of the running system, the people who are adding the stuff to the system, they're doing the architecture, they're doing the framing, and they're also keeping track of the system, what it's doing, how it's doing it, what's going on with them. And you'll notice that each one of these people has some sort of mental representation of what that system is, and if you look at it a little more closely, you see that none of them are the same. By the way, that's very characteristic of these worlds. Nobody's got the same representation. If we play this out a little bit further, we end up with something that looks like this. This is our model of the world, and it includes not just the things that are running there, but all of you and the kinds of activities that you are performing, the cognitive work that you are doing to keep that world functioning. And if we play with this a little bit more, we end up with this kind of model. The model has a line of representation going through the middle, and you interact with the world below the line via a set of representations. Your interactions are never with the things themselves. You don't actually change the systems. What you do is you interact with a representation, and that representation is something about what's going on down below. You can think of those green things as the screens that you're looking at during the day, but the only information that you have about the system comes from these representations. And what's significant about that is all the activities that you do, all the observing, the inferring, the anticipating, the planning, the reacting, the modifying, has to be done via those representations. There's a world above the line and a world below the line. And although you and we mostly talk about the world below the line as though it's very real, as though it's very concrete, as though it's something, the thing, in fact, the big surprise is this. You never get to see it. It doesn't exist. In a real sense, there is no below the line that you can actually touch. You never ever see code run. You never ever see the system work. You never actually touch those things. What you do is you manipulate in a kind of, I don't want to call it an imaginary world because it's real, but you manipulate a world you cannot see via a set of representations. And that's why you need to build those mental models, those conceptions, those understandings about what's going on. Those are the things that are driving that manipulation. It's not that world below the line that's doing it. It's your conceptual ability to understand the things that have happened in the past and the things that you're doing now and why you are doing those things, what matters and why what matters matters.